Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Growing up, my brother Ethan, 35 male, was the undisputed star of the family. It wasn't just favoritism. It was a full-blown obsession. My parents treated him like the second coming, celebrated his every minor accomplishment as if he'd won a Nobel Prize. I, on the other hand, was the dependable child who didn't need much attention. I was the one who had it together. So, naturally, I was left to fend for myself while Ethan basked in constant praise. Ethan's charm was undeniable. He was the type of person who could talk his way out of anything, from breaking curfew to bombing a test. My parents saw his mistakes as learning experiences, while mine were treated as grave disappointments. By the time we reached adulthood, Ethan had already dropped out of college, burned through countless jobs, and borrowed thousands of dollars from my parents. Meanwhile, I, 32 female, was studying law and juggling multiple part-time jobs just to stay afloat. My parents rarely asked about my progress, but were always ready to gush about Ethan's latest half-baked business idea. 5 years ago, Ethan's gambling habit went from a bad habit to a full-blown crisis. He had always been reckless with money, but this was different. He wasn't just betting on sports games or poker nights anymore. He was taking out loans from shady people to fuel his addiction. Eventually, he racked up $30,000 in debt and couldn't pay it back. That's when he came to me. I remember the phone call vividly. He sounded panicked, speaking in rapid-fire sentences about how he was in serious trouble and needed my help. "Look, I know you've got some savings," he said. "You're a lawyer now. You can afford this. Please, I'm begging you." At the time, I was still early in my career and saving for a down payment on my first home. The money I had wasn't just sitting around for emergencies. It represented years of sacrifice and hard work. The thought of handing it over to Ethan, knowing his history of poor decisions, felt like setting it on fire. I told him no. That no became the catalyst for a family-wide meltdown. Ethan didn't take my refusal well. He unleashed a tirade, calling me selfish, greedy, and heartless. "You're my sister," he shouted. "How can you turn your back on me like this?" I thought that was the end of it, but Ethan wasn't done. He went straight to my parents and painted himself as the victim. In his version of events, I was the cold-hearted sister rolling in money, who refused to help her struggling brother out of sheer malice. The next day, I got a call from my mom. Her voice dripped with disappointment. "How could you do this to Ethan?" she demanded. "He's in trouble, and you're just going to let him suffer?" I tried to explain my side, but it didn't matter. To my parents, Ethan's desperation justified everything. They weren't interested in hearing about how I had worked hard to save that money, or how bailing him out wouldn't solve the root of his problem. In their eyes, I was the bad guy for not prioritizing family. The guilt-tripping was relentless. "He's your brother," my dad said. "Family comes first. You'll regret this someday." After weeks of arguments, I realized there was no point in trying to reason with them. My parents saw Ethan as the eternal victim, and anyone who didn't fall in line was the enemy. I stopped attending family gatherings, stopped answering their calls, and quietly went no contact. It wasn't an easy decision, but it felt like the only way to preserve my sanity. Ethan, of course, continued to spiral. He never got professional help, and my parents kept enabling him. They sold off some of their assets to pay his debts and covered for him whenever he got into trouble. It was an endless cycle of bad decisions, bailouts, and empty promises to change. Meanwhile, I focused on my career. I poured all my energy into building a life for myself, free from the chaos of my family. Over time, I bought my dream home, made amazing friends, and built a successful legal practice. I wasn't happy about the rift with my family, but I didn't regret my decision to walk away. 2 weeks ago, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I picked it up thinking it might be one of my clients, but instead, I heard my mother's voice. Her voice was shaky, almost pleading. "We need your help," she said. "Ethan is in jail." Apparently, Ethan had been arrested for fraud after attempting to scam someone to cover his gambling debts. My parents were desperate because they couldn't afford a good lawyer and were now turning to me, the daughter they had ignored and dismissed for years. "Please," my mom begged, "you're his sister. You're the only one who can save him." I was stunned by the audacity of their request. After years of being vilified for not giving Ethan my savings, they suddenly wanted me to swoop in and save the day? I told my mom I wasn't going to get involved. Her response was immediate and furious. "How can you be so cruel? He's your brother. You're really going to let him rot in jail?" I reminded her of how they had treated me. I reminded her of the years of favoritism, the way they had turned on me when I refused to bail Ethan out, and the complete lack of support I had received while building my life. "You made your choices," I said, "and so did Ethan. It's time for him to face the consequences." My mom wouldn't let up. She cried, accusing me of holding a grudge, and begged me to reconsider. "We're family," she said. "You can't just abandon us like this." But to me, the irony was glaring. They had abandoned me long before I walked away. They had chosen Ethan every single time, and now they were reaping the consequences of their actions. Since that call, I've been inundated with messages from my mother's sister, begging me to help. "He's your brother," she said. "How can you live with yourself knowing he's in jail?" Part of me feels guilty. No matter how much pain Ethan and my parents have caused me, it's hard to ignore that nagging voice saying, "What if it were you?" But then I remind myself of everything I've endured. Years of being treated as less important. Years of watching them enable Ethan's self-destruction. Years of being painted as the villain for standing up for myself. I've worked so hard to create a life free from their dysfunction. Am I really supposed to throw that away for someone who has never taken responsibility for his actions? Someone who has never shown me the respect or care I deserved? I don't know. Ethan is my brother, and my parents are still my family, even if our relationship is fractured. But after everything that's happened, I can't help but feel like I'm justified in saying no. What do you think, Reddit? Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my brother now that he's in jail? OP's family is dealing with the fallout of years of enabling Ethan, and now they expect OP to swoop in and clean up the mess? That's outrageous. They dismissed OP, vilified her, and chose Ethan's reckless behavior over OP's hard work and stability. Now that their golden child has finally hit rock bottom, they suddenly remember OP exists, not to apologize or make amends, but to demand OP saves him. Ethan is in jail because of his own choices, and OP's parents bear a lot of responsibility for enabling him every step of the way. OP has spent years building a stable, fulfilling life for herself, and she doesn't owe them anything. If they truly wanted what was best for Ethan, they'd let him face the consequences of his actions instead of continuing to shield him from accountability. OP needs to stay firm. OP is not cruel. She is protecting herself from being dragged back into their dysfunction. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Your family made their choices, and now they're dealing with the consequences. They turned their backs on you when you refused to enable Ethan, and now they have the audacity to expect your help? Absolutely not. You've worked hard to build a life for yourself, and you owe them nothing. Wow, the entitlement of your family is staggering. Ethan has been coddled his whole life, and they expect you to clean up the mess they helped create? They're treating you terribly, and you're under no obligation to save them from their own bad decisions. Not the a-hole. Honestly, this isn't even about Ethan at this point. It's about your family refusing to accept that they've enabled him to this point. You did the right thing by walking away, and you're doing the right thing now. Actions have consequences, and Ethan needs to learn that. Not the a-hole. My best friend Kate has been with her boyfriend for the past 4 years and was supposed to be getting married in 3 months. Even though they lived together, due to the nature of his work, he had to be away for about a year and then had to isolate for 2 months when he came back because of travel restrictions and also having positive COVID tests. In the last 2 years, I think they were together for 9 or 10 months total in the same country and still planning their wedding that had been delayed from last year. Even with the distance, Mark, her fiancé, was an absolute gem and would call her every single day, and they would exchange messages throughout the day. I've known Mark as long as I've known Kate, and he is one of the most devoted and kind guys, and there was never any doubt in anyone's mind that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her, and that he would never cheat on her, even while they were separated during the pandemic. That being said, I know I haven't been a good friend to Mark because I knew that Kate, I guess my former best friend now, had been cheating on him almost the whole time he was away, and I didn't say anything until last week. Kate would brag about all the guys she would hook up with or show me screenshots of guys she found on Tinder and would meet up with them even while we were on lockdown. I guess she never thought I would spill any of this to Mark, so she was very open about what she was doing and told me everything. I know they didn't have an open relationship or an understanding to see other people while they were away from each other, because Mark is very much in the mindset that a couple should be just two people and thought threesomes or multiple partners was weird. What finally made me decide to tell him was that Kate messaged me last week, telling me she thought she had an STD from one of her hookups. I thought she stopped when Mark came back home, but she didn't, and on top of that, I couldn't believe that she wasn't taking precautions. I have been holding this guilt for so long, and just seeing how careless and cruel she was being made me realize that I had to step in and tell him what was really going on. I messaged him telling him that I needed to meet up with him to discuss something regarding Kate, and that it was a surprise, so that he wouldn't bring it up to her before I was able to tell him the truth. He came over and I gave him everything I had. I showed him screenshots for my phone. I showed him pictures she took. I showed him pictures she received from men. I showed him her profile on Tinder. I even printed out everything I had and gave it to him. He spent the whole time listening. He never said a word, and then he just took the papers and left. I haven't heard from him since, and he hasn't responded to any of my calls or messages. However, I have heard not only from Kate, but her family, and even my family. She called me the next day screaming, telling me I ruined her life, that I was evil, that I should have kept my mouth shut and karma was going to come back at me. She sent me some pretty disgusting texts, and I think she came to my house once, but I wasn't there, so I never had to physically see her. The problem really isn't Kate being mad, but that my own parents think I should have stayed out of it, and that I ruined a relationship. Her family and my family are really close, and now neither family wants to speak to each other. My mom thinks that they could have had marriage counseling after they got married to resolve this. My dad says that we don't know what she was going through and why she did this, and it isn't my responsibility to get involved in their relationship. They also think that it was in bad form that I told him this during the holiday season. They want me to apologize to her and her family for getting involved in her business and sending him the texts and screenshots. Her family also refuses to speak to me. Her sister also keeps posting online that none of those screenshots and texts were real, and that I faked them, and that I'm only doing this because I harbor some feelings for him, and I wanted to break them up so I could be with him. None of that is true. I already have a partner, and I love him very much, and honestly, he's the only one that thinks I did the right thing. Right now, our area is in somewhat of a lockdown, so I haven't really been able to talk to my family in person, and they don't really want to talk to me on the phone until I fix this with her family. I don't know how I can mend this relationship with my family, and I can't believe they aren't on my side. Is there something I'm missing? Did I make a mistake? Should I have kept my mouth shut and let them proceed with their wedding? You are a rare human being. You did the right thing. Don't let the people who got burned in the aftermath tell you different. If it was you, you'd want to know. You did the right thing. I don't think you should apologize because it shows them that you agree what you did was wrong. It wasn't. Yes, you shouldn't get involved in other people's relationships, but when you're literally made aware of cheating, and you're the only way Mark would have ever found out, it's the right and fair thing to do. Hopefully your family will come around and get over it. And duck Katie. What a disgusting piece of crap. I met Bella 4 years ago, and we've been inseparable ever since. She has a big heart, is incredibly smart, and has a great sense of humor. Up until recently, I had no doubt I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. Finances is something that I view important in marriage, though, and now I'm not sure if it's going to be a problem. Bella comes from a pretty poor family. Because of this, she's been working several jobs at a time from a very early age. She nailed a 6-figure job right off the bat after graduating. She's very talented, so no surprises there. I knew she had helped her family from time to time, but I just didn't know to what extent this was. Over $110K worth to be exact. Her uncle had a big accident several years back, needed surgery. She basically gifted her entire savings of over $20K to them. She was only 19 at the time. She continued to send money to them over the years, which in total is over $40 to $50K. In addition to this, over the last 8 years, she has given another $50 to $60K to her parents. She paid their car insurance, their rent, their bills for years. She also paid for the groceries, or was giving money to them on top of it. She did this while she was studying and working full-time. She studied a pretty stressful degree, so I don't even know how she did all of this. She doesn't seem bothered by any of it. When I ask, she describes it all as if she was really lucky. How she lucked out and got a great paying job at Unilab due to her family circumstances. How they were understanding of her studies and let her work around it. How she was lucky to get a lot of scholarships, which meant she didn't have to buy books. Honestly, she's far from lucky by the sounds of everything, but she has her mind made up that she lucked out through every step. The bigger problem is, I'm not sure how far she'd be taking this helping family situation. She's great with money. She actually has $90K saved up for a house down payment that she's planning on purchasing. But she could have $200K plus if only she didn't just hand over cash to everyone. I really don't think it was her responsibility to be financially supporting all those people. She says she's not planning on giving away any lump sums to anyone anymore, but that if a bill needs to be covered, she's happy to do so. Her reasoning is that most people her age, including her friends, coworkers, spend a lot of cash on designer items, bags, shoes, makeup, eating, drinking out. She thinks she's happy doing this instead, and thinks she's actually saving money long-term since she doesn't have those expenses. She tells me not to worry and that she knows how to handle her finances, how this process has taught her to be smart with her savings. And she is smart. She knows how to invest and get the most return out of things. But when it comes to family, I really don't think she's being smart. She says not everything is about money and that what goes around comes around, which puts more doubt in my head, as she seems to think that the help she provides will return to her in another form. The bottom line is, I'm not sure how we could join our lives together when she might give away our cash to people and think, oh well, it will return to us in the form of good karma. How do I approach this? Am I worrying over nothing? Edit. I'll clarify we have similar incomes and I have a lot more saved up. We live together and contribute equally towards expenses. Things are separate for now, but we are considering joining once we get married. It is important that you get on the same page, but here's the best workaround. This is how it works for me and many others. You work out together how to split expenses, 50-50 or proportional to income. There is no right answer. It can be hard to agree on that. You agree what is a reasonable amount to contribute monthly to the pot, i.e., how big the monthly pot will be. The monthly pot is what you spend on savings, home rental or purchase, or maintenance, bills, entertainment, holidays. What is left over is yours to spend how you choose. In her case, family. It could take you a while to work out the numbers, but it's worth the effort. Your girlfriend sounds like a glorious mix of decent person and good with money. So long as she's okay with it, I'd say mind your own business. There's more to life than money. Clearly she knows that, while also not shying away from managing her financial affairs. You're dating a unicorn. Appreciate it. My 11-year-old cousin recently turned 11. My aunt held a party at a pizza place, and it was not great. First, the party package allowed the birthday child and up to 25 other people. 12 of them were family. One was my cousin's best friend. The other 12 were adult friends of my aunt, some of which my cousin has never met. My cousin was visibly annoyed when a few of these people showed up. She said she doesn't like them and didn't know her mom invited them. She said they're rude and loud, and throughout the party, I learned that she was right. The party room consisted of 2 long rows of tables. My aunt sat with her friends on one side of the room, and everyone else sat on the other. My aunt spent most of her time over there instead of with her birthday girl. Those 12 adult friends did not behave in a child-oriented fashion. Rather than celebrating the 11-year-old's birthday, they seemed to be celebrating 11 years of parenthood for my aunt. They brought several bottles of alcohol and were taking shots. Even the food was not really kid-friendly. The party package came with 6 large pizzas and 6 pitchers of soda. My aunt and her friends chose all 6 to be weird varieties. Specialties like Hawaiian barbecue, one with hot sauce, and several kinds of peppers, etc. They did not choose a single kid-friendly pizza for my cousin or the other kids in the family. Even the adults in the family weren't interested in any of the pizzas they ordered. We called my aunt over and asked her to order some normal pizzas, and she said that she could only get 6 with the party package and couldn't afford to buy any extra on top of it. She said we should have said something before she ordered, but we didn't even know they had ordered until pizzas came out of the kitchen. As for the pitchers of soda, they took 5 of the 6 pitchers for their table. Only 1 came to ours. 1 pitcher was not enough for 12 people. My grandma went over there to have a chat with my aunt about how this was not really kid-oriented, and she wanted my aunt to come to our table and be with her daughter, and she wanted my aunt's friends to stop taking shots in a family restaurant. She was really ashamed of my aunt. Ultimately, I ended up ordering 3 more pizzas and soda for our table because no one wanted any of the weird stuff they got. When it came time for cake, we also learned that my aunt chose her favorite kind of cake instead of my cousin's, which just seemed sad and weird. The cake had pineapple in it, and my cousin said she has had it before but didn't like it. She ended up only eating a few bites of her own birthday cake. Ultimately, I'm sad and disgusted by how everything happened. My aunt did not treat this as a party for her daughter's 11th birthday, but instead as a party for herself and her friends. What should be done about this? I am contemplating throwing a second birthday party for her or something, but I don't know. I also feel like someone needs to talk to my aunt about this, because it's unacceptable. Should that be someone talking to her one-on-one, or several people, intervention style? Your aunt is a crappy parent. The only thing you can do is let the cousin know that you think she is special. She could probably use a good person like you in her life. The next 6 years are going to be tough. This could be one of those times where you could make a difference in someone's life. Your aunt cares about herself rather than her kid. If you can afford to throw her another party, I doubt the aunt will even notice. But reaching out to the kid will help a lot. She needs someone to be there for her if things get worse. He is cheating on his wife. Yes, that is wrong, I understand. A really crappy thing to do. I met him through work. He works above me, and it started off slowly flirting and going for coffee dates, or him asking me to come along with him and his bosses for work nights. And then it was progressed more, and we had S for the first time 3 months ago. It was nice. I knew he was married, but I didn't feel much regret. We had S a lot after this, and he spends a lot of nights with me despite the fact he has a family. He always talked about how his wife was a B and was ignoring his needs, and all the random stuff to his coworkers. So I kind of turned her into the bad guy in my head. I thought I was doing a good thing by giving this guy attention. Since then, we've been going out. He takes me to nice places. He buys me nice things, like makeup. And a girl needs help footing this bill. Clothes, random stuff, etc. It's pretty great. The S is good too. We have good chemistry and everything. However, his wife came in yesterday. It was the first time I ever saw her. She brought one of their kids. I didn't know they had any, but I guess he has 3. I felt guilty. She seemed really nice. He also changed immediately around her. It was like nothing was wrong in their marriage. I assumed in my head that they would be cold with one another. From what he described, his wife seemed evil. Yet here was this nice, perfect woman standing in front of me. She was so pretty, and she was so sweet to her kids. I mean, maybe I'm idolizing her, but she just didn't look like someone anyone would cheat on. Guilt was really starting to sink in. I'm not hotter than her. Younger, sure, but that's it. I guess I was just feeling like, why did this happen to her? Why would he do that? I can't help but think I'm going to get bad karma for this, and I'm going to be cheated on when I'm married and older, because of what I'm doing now. Before, I had absolutely no guilt. I didn't care one bit that I was sleeping with this woman's husband. It's like she didn't exist. But now, I feel like a total homewrecker. Also, after she came in, her husband is acting weird towards me, like he doesn't even know me, or as if nothing happened between us. Things have completely 360'd. I have come to the realization that this is going to implode horribly. I need to lessen this blow to my life, and want to morally turn this around and offset my own karma somehow. Advice appreciated very much. Except skip the whole crappy person thing. I am okay with telling his wife. I just don't know how to handle this. When a married man has an affair, he has already decided that he is not leaving. For whatever reason, good or not, in your opinion, he's decided to stay. And sadly, you probably won't be the exception. He's going to tell you anything that justifies him having an affair, even if it's not totally true. Like, she's a B or doesn't pay attention to my needs, and so on. You only have half of the story, and he's only going to give you the side that makes him not look like an a-hole. So cut your losses and end this now. Otherwise, if you get attached, it's only going to end in heartbreak on your part. He's not going to tell her. You have to decide if you want to tell her. That's up to you.